The reason why most people don't really do well in post UTME is not because they didn't study very hard. Actually, most of them actually study very hard, but then they didn't follow certain principles. Now, there are certain ways or certain steps or some steps that you actually take to actually do very well in your post UTME. And in this video, I'll be listing out those steps, and then at the end of the video, I will tell you how you can actually implement this into your daily life to write your post UTME exam. Hi, my name is Pelumi, also known as Kenst, a second-year medical student of the University of Ibadan. I post self-development content, educational content, and contents that I believe will be helpful to you as a student. So if you are up for that, kindly hit the subscribe button and click on the notification bell so that you get notified any single time I post new content. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Preparing for post UTME is more deeper than just reading or just attending tutorials or just solving past questions or just doing mock exams. It's more like combining all of them together in the right proportion. And what most people always tend to mix is they believe that attending tutorial automatically you don't really need to put in much effort, and then they assume that okay, they will definitely do very well. While some will just believe that okay, I will just be studying, I will just be studying, I will just be studying, and then I will just do well. Now, the first thing you should do when preparing for post UTME is to gather enough information about your school of choice. Now, when you gather enough information, now this information actually includes you have the cutoff UTME score. Like for example, some universities actually accept 180 as their cutoff one. So that means if you have 180, you can still apply to that school. Some of them, their benchmark is 200, so on and so forth. And then for highly competitive courses, you should know that you should actually get higher than normal. Like for medicine now, you can, even though the benchmark for writing post UTME UI is 200, if you are going to be applying for a course like medicine, you should definitely have 300. Even if you have less than 300, you should probably be like 290, 295, and the rest. So that's some of the information. And aside from the UTME score, you should actually know about the past year's cutoff mark, and then you should also have more information about how the previous post UTME was and what are the traps that were set for candidates. And then most importantly, you should check past cutoff marks. Like if you will be applying for medicine, you should check, okay, I didn't write any UTME this last year, so let's say 2020. So you are either going to check the cutoff mark for medicine in 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017. So you gauge all of them together. With that, you should be able to know how, like, the extra points you still need to work towards in order for you to actually secure the admission. I also advise that you should actually reach out to people that have done the post UTME before and they've succeeded, especially those with high scores. So if you reach out to them, they will definitely tell you how they are able to do it, and then you ask them for some of the traps that were set for them and how they were able to actually overcome. The next thing you should do is get suitable study materials. Now, the study materials I'm talking about, you have the textbook, the right textbooks. You have the past questions, the right past questions, and then you have other materials. So it's not just study materials is not just restricted to just your textbook and your past questions. You have some mnemonics, some shortcuts, some key points that you should actually use while also studying, because using all those key points, all these mnemonics actually makes your studying like way faster, and then you tend to assimilate way better. And the best way to actually get all these study materials is for you to try to reach out to people that have done the exam before. They definitely know the right materials that were actually helpful to them in the exam. So reach out to them, and you can actually source it off. We have a lot of materials online. Now there are some that actually require you to actually buy the hard copy. People are actually selling past questions, but then be careful of the past questions that you purchase, because some of these past questions are actually not the real past questions. Some of them are just like questions that some people just decide to just combine together and then they form it as past questions. So just make sure, always ensure that before you actually purchase any past questions at all, ask for a sample. Now you send that sample, a sample of the previous year. Now when you get the sample of that previous year, then you send it to someone that actually wrote the post UTME the previous year, so they will tell you, okay, these questions are actually quite right. So before you actually make payment, because it don't really make sense for you to actually spend huge amount of money, because the amount that they're actually collecting for that they're actually selling all those materials are actually quite huge. You have 3,000, you have quite a lot. So it won't really make sense for you to actually waste your money buying the wrong materials. So I think that's the best approach you can actually use. And then I'll also be making a video on the right textbooks you can actually use to prepare for biology, physics, and chemistry. So stay tuned. I'll be releasing them like probably in the next 4 days or so. Another thing that I think will help you as well, it actually helps me, is setting high target score. Now, what I mean by this is, if you believe that okay, you just need 50 to actually do very well in your Post UTME, your level of preparation will be different from someone that actually needs, that is targeting 90. Because you always believe, okay, his questions are simple now. I guess. I feel I can get like 50. But then the best thing for you to actually do is target high scores. Now, let's say, as I said before, that you should actually check the previous year's cutoff mark. When you check the previous year's cutoff mark, you'll be able to infer from it the Post UTME score that you actually need to actually scale through. Now, when you get that Post UTME score, it's always advisable for you to actually target like a score higher, because there's a saying that if you target the sky, or if you target the there's a saying that if you target the sky, if you don't fall, that you definitely fall within the stars or something. But if you target the stars, you definitely fall on the sky, in the sky. I don't know how this stuff goes, but then it's always advisable for you to target higher, because you targeting higher, there's a very high probability that if you target 80, if you target 90, you might most likely not get the 90. It's possible for you to try to get the 90, but you might most likely not get you might possibly not get the 90. And if you don't get the 90, you will definitely get something closer, like 85, 89, and that will still be enough for you to actually gain admission. It's always advisable for you to actually target like high scores. Another thing you should also do is make a study plan. And I think most people always tend to get it wrong here, because most people just believe that okay, the study plan should just include the time that you actually need to read. No, the study plan should not just include the time that you actually need to read. That includes the topic that you have issues with, how you are going to tackle it, the amount of time you actually have to devote to it, and the rest. So make a study plan, and I'll make another video on actually how to make a study plan. So stay tuned. The video will be released soon. And let me just give you a glimpse of how your study plan should actually be. Now, the first thing you should do when making a study plan is you should know all the topics that you still need to cover. Now, after knowing all the topics you still need to cover, then you identify topics, the key topics there that they always tend to ask in every exams. And the only way you can know the topics they always tend to ask in every exam is by going through the past questions, and then you can infer the topics that they always tend to ask. Like for example, now for UTME they always ask motion. In Post UTME they always ask motion. Like in UI, I think they asked relative motion at a point. During my time, they asked relative motion, and then a lot of us actually got it wrong, because when they were teaching us relative motion, we believed that they won't ask. And so after inferring the topics that they will always ask, then you infer the topics, like you'll be able to then pick out the topics that you know that you have hard time with. Then after picking them down out, now focus on those key topics and the topic, then you make sure that you slot in all those topics and the topics that you're having issue with into like your priority. So when you want to start reading, you start with those topics. Then after that, then you can now read the remaining topics that are not quite important, although all topics are actually important. So that's where you create study guide. And after like bringing out the topics that you actually have to read, that you actually have to prepare the important topics and the ones that you have issue with, then you slot out the time that you actually need to actually study those topics. Let's say for example you can decide to just like be studying for like 8 hours every day, or even more than that if you actually have the strength. But then I think 8 hours is enough. And after slotting in the times, and then you have a target, okay, in the next probably like a month or 2 or 3 months, these are the topics that I should be done with. So that's what your study plan should actually look like. Not just okay, I'll be reading for 8 hours, or I'll be reading for 4 hours, or I'll be reading for so. You have to include the topic that have given you issue, the important topics, and then you make sure that you focus on the important and then the topics that are actually giving you problem firstly before you actually start studying the remaining topics. So that's where your study plan should actually be. Another thing you should actually do is also start your preparation very early. This can never be emphasized because someone that is starting the preparation for their exams like a month to the exam will have lesser time to actually go through each topics thoroughly. They will most likely just rush, and then there will be some loopholes that the examiner will be able to actually leverage on. So it's better to start your preparation very early so that you'll be able to like go through it like thoroughly at your own pace, not that you'll be rushing and the rest. And you'll be able to like devote more time to the topics that are giving you issue. Also, try as much as possible to make sure that you study consistently. Not that if you study today, then you test tomorrow, and then next tomorrow you read, or even you won't even read for the next 2 days, then you read again. And then most people always do this, that for a day you probably read for like 12 hours, and then the next day you not read at all because you say, okay, I've read everything like yesterday. Whereas the power is in the consistency. If you something that you're actually keeping in touch with, like you're actually doing like almost every day, always tends to stick better with you compared to something that you're always doing once in a while. So just Mary, to make sure that in your plan you had the time you actually have to study, include the specific time, probably in the evening or in the morning or so. You always include those in your study plan, and then make sure that you follow them like consistently. And you will notice that after spending like a whole month like doing all these things, like studying like consistently, you realize that you definitely notice like improving yourself. Also, make use of the Post UTME past questions. Now, there are some past questions that actually have a lot of A levels in them. Now, if your school is that kind of set those kind of questions, then you should definitely know that some of your study materials must definitely have some A-level textbooks in them. So if you actually study the past question, you definitely know how the examiner most likely will ask you questions. I think one added advantage I have now is the fact that I've solved like a lot of past questions, and such that if anytime I'm studying a particular topic, I already know like where the examiner most likely asks me questions from. So that always tends to give me like added advantage, because I will most likely just neglect the parts. I won't necessarily neglect it, but then I won't focus more of my energy on those parts that the examiner will most likely not even ask. So I always tend to spend lesser time studying, and then the study tends to be like way more effective. So studying the past question will give you a broad overview on the key areas that your examiners will most likely ask a question from. And then nobody is concerned about whether you know a lot of stuff. You should just be able to actually know the writing. You're able to answer the question that your examiner is asking you. You don't need the unnecessary stuff, just the important stuff, so you'll be able to ace your exam. Also, engage with like-minded people. Now, what engaging with like-minded people will do is it will allow you to actually know your position or the level that you are in. Now, engaging with like-minded people will give you that motivation to actually read more, because when you are seeing other people like when you're preparing for Post UTME, now you see a lot of people with 333, 300, 30 something, and then you're having like 290. Now that will more like give you like a sort of motivation that, okay, yeah, I still have a long way to go, compared to you not actually even talking to most of these people at all. And then that was what actually happened to me in my first Post UTME. So compared to you not actually engaging with other people at all, you won't really know how much you still have to go, or how much preparation you still have to like do in order for you to actually like close the gap between you and them. Because for people that are writing you at Post UTME now, people with high UTME score already have like a leverage, probably a point, 2 points, or 3 points ahead of you because of their scores. So you have to definitely be targeting like higher scores than them. And then the only way you can actually know that, okay, you have to prepare extremely well, is when you actually know these people. You know the way, you actually know their scores, and then you know the way they study. So when they are studying like 100%, you have to actually study like 200% or 150%, depending on the gap between your score and theirs. And engaging with like-minded people, like doing something in group, like it makes it very less likely that you will not study. Studying with like-minded people actually gives you that motivation that you actually need, in the sense that when you are feeling tired, or you just don't want to read anymore, they'll more like give you energy, like to actually push through, because they're always there. Oh, let's go and read, let's go and read, let's go and read. And you obviously won't want to tell them no, 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 no. When you're telling them no because like 5 times, you definitely feel bad. So that will more like ensure that you actually read, and they will more like make you more accountable to actually studying. So it's best for you to actually engage with like-minded people, make friends with them, or probably acquaintances with them, and then make sure to actually allow them to actually improve you, and you to should also improve them as well. Now, also, what most people don't do is they don't seek help. Now, nobody knows it all, and being able to actually identify when you actually need help is very important. Not all topics or not all subjects will be your strong suit. There will be some that will be like way complex for you. I think the one subject that most people tend to have issue with is the physics or public chemistry too. And there are people out there that are very, very good with physics. Once you see such people, tell them that you're having issue with physics. Let them explain it to you. Don't do I'll read myself. Sometimes someone teaching you is way faster than you actually even reading it yourself sometimes, because the fact that they actually know it, they already know some shortcuts or some approach to actually explaining those topics or that subject, like so that it will be easily understandable by you. So it's best for you to actually seek help when you need the help. Don't do agidi. So lastly, constantly test yourself in the same exam condition. Now, and one way you can actually do this is by actually attending mock exams or doing mock exams, or being intentional about doing this, because it's just not about you just going to do mock exams. You can actually do this at home too, so far you are actually very disciplined, because some people, anytime they want to do this at home, they will probably just take their textbook and then they'll be checking their textbook. But if you're actually quite disciplined and just say, okay, I want to do this thing myself, I won't check the textbook so I will know how far I've gone, you can definitely do that too. But then even though you can do that, it's best that you actually go and attend the mock exams, so that you will definitely test yourself. Because one thing I actually noticed that actually implicated me in my first Post UTME as well is that I've never been in the same exam condition before, and there are certain things that actually influence people's performance in exam. That's why sometimes you notice that when you are doing all this, practicing all these past questions and all, you tend to do better. Then when you get into the exam, it's as if maybe you don't even know anything. It's because there are a lot of conditions that the exam being the exam actually setting in. Like you have the time factor, you have like the emotional factor as well too. So like putting yourself in that condition prior to your exam will more like you are training yourself. Training yourself will, for every training that you are doing, you are definitely improving a particular aspect. So that when you go for the exam, you'll be used to it, and then you won't be stressed out, or you won't be having time issues and rest. How you're trying to implement all this, I'll just give you like an example. Now, personally for me, I did the first time I was actually write Post UTME, especially UI Post UTME, I had 48, and then the next one I didn't write Post UTME for the next year, and then the year after, and then after that the next Post UTME I will write I had 76, and then the final one I actually wrote I had 81. Now you notice the sharp increase between 48 to 76 and then to 81. Now what actually changed is basically every single thing I just explained to you guys. Gathering enough information. Prior to writing the Post UTME, where I had 76, I did A-levels, and then while doing the A-level, I actually met a lot of people that were applying to UI medicine, and I observed the way these people were like, they were very, very passionate, the way they study. And the very first time I actually wrote Post UTME, I was not studying as much as they were. I was most likely always reading. I'll be reading and at the same time watching movie, doing the two things at the same time. So I observed the way these people were reading, and then I had to do a lot of rearrangement, or not rearrangement. I had to do a lot of readjustment so as to match their energy, or even double theirs. So the next day that I was writing the Post UTME, I reached out to a lot of friends. I joined a lot of WhatsApp group that actually gave me a lot of insight on what the UTME should be like, because you actually have to write Post UTME first before you actually write Post UTME. So I prepared very well. I even prepared in a very short period of time. I prepared within 2 weeks, and then I had a very nice UTME score. So then after that, in the group, I actually noticed that a lot of people actually had higher score than I did. So I had the intention that, okay, for me to actually be able to actually gain this admission, I have to put in the maximum effort. So it was at that point that I actually realized, okay, then let me just ghost. During that period of time, I already had planned, okay, I'll be going to the library from morning to evening. So what I did is I said, okay, anytime I go to the library, I'll probably read for 8 hours. I search for the right studying materials that I needed, as I already said before. So after getting those study materials, and then I got a library ID card, and I started going to the library and reading 8 hours every day. And then the best approach you can actually use to actually study that I actually used was for physics. Immediately after reading a topic, solve questions on that topic. And it's best for you to actually use questions that they provide thorough explanation. Like all this one that they will say, they'll give you a question, and then you solve it first, and then after solving it, then you check the explanation on that topic. Don't just use questions that they just give you the answer, probably A or B is wrong. Make sure that you actually check the explanation. I think that's one thing that actually helps. And also, as you are reading a topic, probably in physics and chemistry or biology, make sure to solve questions on that topic almost immediately. Always apply the knowledge that you just gained. It makes it stick. And I think that's part of something we call active recall or something, which is one of the things I will still talk about. So make sure that you actually solve questions immediately after reading the topic. So I spent 3 months going to the library almost every day, reading. And it was after that then after reading for 3 months, I was able to actually complete the entire syllabus for physics, chemistry, and biology. Then I went to a tutorial center. Now, when I went to the tutorial center, the first mock I would do in that tutorial center, I got 56 or something. So for someone that have been spending 3 months in the library, reading, and then the person getting 56, obviously you should know how bad it's obvious. So it's not just, it's not just about you reading. You have to be able to put yourself in the same exam condition. So after the mock exams, I realized that, okay, there is something missing, and I got to talk to a lot of people that actually had high scores in the mock exams. So, and then it was from there that I started noticing that, okay, it's not just about me reading. I have to actually solve questions as well, and then pay attention to some of the questions that the tutors that we had then actually asking in the class, and then how they were able to actually provide answers to them. So I think that's really 4 key things. The keynote things that you actually notice is I actually had the intention to I was actually intentional about studying. I gathered enough information about the Post UTME exam. I created the study plan. I got the right studying materials, and then I devoted a large amount of time to actually reading. So I placed myself in the same exam condition as I would have experienced while I was writing the Post UTME exam. So I reached out to people that would definitely help me as well too. So those are the key things that I actually, and during the 3 months, another thing is during 3 months I was reading consistently. I was not reading today, not reading tomorrow, reading today, not reading tomorrow, or reading the next 2 days or so. I was reading it consistently. So I think with those, you should definitely be able to get a very high score in your Post UTME if you stick to this, and then you're actually intentional about it. I think one major factor most people don't know is anytime you're trying to prepare for any exams at all, and you are planning to actually do very well, after setting high target score, be intentional about getting that score. it's very possible that along the line you will definitely lose focus. But then if you are intentional about it and you are very, very disciplined, regardless of whether you are feeling fine to actually read or not, you will definitely find a way to actually read. Even when you are not reading, you will probably try and engage in something that will actually still make you make use of your brain to actually make use of your brain generally. And I remember during when preparing for Post UTME and UTME itself, I was not feeling fine at the point. Even with the way that I was not feeling fine, like my eye got swollen, like very, very big. Even with the way my eye got swollen, I was still reading until it got to a point that I noticed that okay, I can no longer read. So that's basically showing the level of intentionality that is actually in there. So be intentional about actually like studying and actually doing well in your Post UTME. I think with that you should definitely be fine. So if this video, kindly hit the like button. And if you have people preparing for Post UTME or any exams at all, kindly share the video with them, and see you guys in my next video.